As he grabbed the bag, shots are fired.
Who shoots the shots that are fired?
Michael Boatwright.
Point him out and identify him in the courtroom as to who you're referring to that made some comments to you.
Second row.
By the time the internet started getting angry about Robert Allen again, the real legal battle was already over. The verdicts were in, the sentences had been handed down, the shooter was serving life, the driver was serving life, the other gunman was serving life, and Robert Allen, one of the 4 men involved in the robbery and murder of XXXTentacion, had already been out of prison for more than 2 years. That is what made the backlash hit so hard. People were reacting to a real injustice, but often with the wrong timestamp. In 2026, posts began circulating as if Allen had just been released. He had actually walked out in October 2023. The outrage was late, but the question underneath it was not. It was the same question this case has carried from the beginning. How does the system deal with a guilty man whose testimony helps lock away the other guilty men for life? Because Robert Allen was never innocent. He was useful. And in this case, that distinction changed everything.
Sentencing day for Robert Allen, the 4th suspect in the robbery and murder of rapper XXXTentacion, who confessed to his role and implicated the other 3 who were convicted.
Robert Allen, the 4th man involved in rapper XXXTentacion's murder and robbery, spoke during his sentencing hearing Wednesday, saying he was sorry while asking the judge to spare his life.
To understand why, you have to go back to June 18, 2018, and to a robbery that stopped being a robbery the moment one man decided theft was not enough. That afternoon, Jose Onfroy, better known as XXXTentacion, withdrew around $50,000 in cash from a Bank of America in South Florida. He put the money in a Louis Vuitton bag and drove to Riva Motorsports in Deerfield Beach with his step-uncle Leonard Kerr. He was 20 years old, newly successful, widely watched, and easy to track if you knew what to look for. His life was public enough that his car, a black BMW i8, was recognizable from social media alone. That mattered because somewhere else in South Florida, 4 men were already riding around in a rented black Dodge Journey with guns, masks, and a loose plan to rob somebody. Not a specific somebody at first, just somebody. The 4 men were Dedrick Williams, Michael Boatwright, Trayvon Newsom, and Robert Allen. According to Allen's later account, the plan was broad, almost casual in its brutality. Drive around, find a target, take what you can. Everyone expected guns to be involved. Everyone was supposed to wear a mask. Then Williams saw the BMW in the Riva parking lot. He recognized it. Not just the model, but the connection. He had seen Onfroy before at a probation office and remembered him. He pulled up Instagram, matched the car in the lot to the car online, and the group had what they wanted. Not just a victim, but a confirmed victim. That detail matters because it turns randomness into selection. It is one thing to go looking for a robbery. It is another to spot a person, identify him, and move toward him with purpose. Allen later said Williams told him to go inside and confirm it. Allen did. He walked into the dealership, passed by Onfroy, and came back out. Williams bought 2 black neoprene masks at the counter while they were inside. Surveillance captured that part. It also captured what came next. Back in the SUV, Allen said he told them it was a bad idea. He knew he and Williams had already been seen on camera. For a moment, there was hesitation. Then Williams pushed. Boatwright and Newsom got ready. The Dodge Journey moved across the street, and the group waited. 8 minutes and 35 seconds. At trial, prosecutors played that stretch for the jury in full, with no shortcut and no dramatic edit. Just the waiting, just the stillness. The kind of silence that becomes evidence. Not confusion, not panic, premeditation. When Onfroy and Kerr came back out and got into the BMW, Williams drove forward and blocked the exit. Boatwright and Newsom jumped out fast. Boatwright went to the driver's side with a rifle. Newsom moved in too, grabbing for Onfroy's chain, then going for the Louis Vuitton bag. Kerr was ordered to stay put, but ran and survived. Newsom got the bag with the cash. At that point, the robbery was over, the money was gone. The target was cornered. The objective had been achieved. And then Onfroy was shot. 3 bullets entered his neck. He was unarmed. According to the state's case, he had not reached for anything. 2 bullets stayed in his body. 1 damaged his lung and grazed his aorta. He was pronounced dead later that day at Broward Health North. That is the hinge of the whole case. Not just that he was robbed, that he was killed after the robbery was already complete. The four men fled in the Dodge Journey, crashed it during the getaway, and eventually regrouped at Allen's house. There, they opened the bag and divided the cash. Williams, Boatwright, and Newsom took $15,000 each. Allen got $5,000 because, as the others saw it, he had not done enough to deserve an equal share. That smaller cut would later become part of Allen's image as the least violent person in the car. But least violent is not the same thing as blameless. He had helped confirm the target. He had participated in the setup. He took the money, and he stayed silent. Then came one of the ugliest details in the aftermath. Hours after the shooting, cell phone videos and social media posts showed Williams, Boatwright, and Newsom displaying stacks of cash, smiling and dancing. Whatever distance there might have been between robbery and murder in their own minds had vanished in public. The celebration did what celebrations like that always do. It removed ambiguity. It showed the emotional reality behind the act. The arrest followed quickly. Williams was picked up within 48 hours during a traffic stop, still wearing the same outfit seen in surveillance footage. Boatwright was arrested on unrelated drug charges and served the murder warrant in jail. Allen was arrested in Georgia. Newsom turned himself in last. All four were charged with first-degree premeditated murder and armed robbery with a firearm. From the outside, the case already looked strong. Detectives had surveillance from the dealership. They had the mask purchase. They had the wait. They had the ambush. They had the getaway. What they did not have yet was the inner map of the car. Who said what? Who carried what? Who pushed the robbery forward? Who fired? Who knew? Who hesitated? Who decided to keep going anyway? That is where Robert Allen became valuable. His interrogation with Broward Detective John Curcio, known as Mongo, did not begin as a clean confession. It began with hedging. Allen used phrases like, "I think," and "I guess." Curcio pressed him on the small evasions, because small evasions poison big truths. Slowly, Allen started giving more. He described the rental car setup. He described the guns. He described the stop at Williams's house. He described being sent into Riva to confirm Onfroy's identity. He described saying the robbery was a bad idea. He described the money split afterward. The interrogation gave investigators a framework, but the real turning point came years later. On August 12, 2022, Allen pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and armed robbery with a firearm. In exchange, the first-degree murder charge against him was dropped, and he agreed to fully cooperate against Williams, Boatwright, and Newsom. That deal is the part many people never accepted emotionally, even if they understood it legally, because it meant the state was choosing to reward one participant in order to destroy the others. It meant the truth would come from someone compromised. It meant justice would arrive carrying a stain. At the 2023 joint trial, Allen took the stand for days, and once he started talking in open court, he gave prosecutors what the cameras could not. Surveillance can show bodies moving. It cannot tell a jury whose mind was driving the crime. Allen told them Williams was directing things from the driver's seat. He identified Boatwright and Newsom as the masked men who got out. He described Boatwright at the driver's side window with the rifle. He described Newsom going for the chain and the bag. He said the shots were fired as the bag was being taken. He identified Boatwright as the shooter. The defense attacked him exactly the way you would expect. They called him a liar. They pointed to his criminal history. They portrayed him as a man saving himself by reshaping the story to fit the prosecution's needs. They hammered every inconsistency between his earlier statements and his trial testimony. But Allen did not need to be noble to be effective. He needed to be corroborated. And much of what he said was. DNA on the masks matched Williams and Boatwright. Boatwright's phone placed him at Riva at the time of the killing and showed it had paired by Bluetooth with the rented Dodge Journey. A box of .22 caliber bullets recovered from Boatwright's home was missing 4 rounds, matching the number of shots fired. His fingerprints were found on the exterior driver's door of Onfroy's BMW. The jury also heard about phone searches in the aftermath and testimony from Williams' then-girlfriend, who said he confessed his role and tried to get her to help create a false alibi. There was also the conduct around the trial itself. Newsom was seen berating Allen during transport, calling him a sellout. And while the defense tried to float an alternate theory involving Drake and an old public feud with Onfroy, investigators and witnesses dismissed it. Allen testified that no outside figure orchestrated the crime. According to the state's case, this was not a celebrity plot. It was a robbery carried out by 4 local men who recognized an opportunity and took it. The jury took its time. More than 27 hours of deliberation spread over 8 days. In a complicated case, long deliberations can mean doubt. They can also mean seriousness. Here, the jury was sorting through multiple defendants, multiple lawyers, text messages, forensic evidence, surveillance, and the testimony of a co-conspirator whose credibility had to be weighed, not assumed. Then on March 20th, 2023, the verdict came back. Guilty on all counts. Williams guilty of boatwright, guilty. Newsom guilty. First-degree murder, armed robbery with a firearm. At sentencing, the 3 men received what Allen had helped make possible. Williams and Newsom were sentenced to life without parole. Boatwright, identified as the shooter, received 2 consecutive life sentences plus 30 years. The judge told him he had turned a robbery into a murder and would die in prison. Then came Allen's turn. What separated him from the other 3, in the eyes of the court, was not innocence. It was cooperation, and what the judge viewed as remorse. Allen apologized. He said he understood the risk he had taken. The court also heard that he had provided information in an unrelated cold case and put himself in danger by cooperating. He was sentenced to 7 years with credit for the nearly 5 years he had already served awaiting trial. In practical terms, that meant he was almost done. On October 26, 2023, Robert Allen was released. He did not walk into freedom in the pure sense. He walked into 20 years of probation, a sealed home address, mandatory reporting, travel restrictions unless approved, and an order barring contact with Onfroy's family. Later, he was allowed to travel for work as a licensed CDL truck driver. By the account in the source material, he had no reported probation violations and no new charges. The others stayed where they were, and the story should have ended there, at least legally. But some cases never really end. They just change platforms. In October 2024, Boatwright from inside prison got access to Instagram and posted that he was not sorry for what he did. It spread fast. The cruelty of it was obvious, but so was the pattern. Even after conviction, even after life sentences, there was still no remorse, still no acknowledgement, just the same defiance that had been there from the start. Then came appeals. In late 2024, Williams' side reportedly tried again to push the old Drake angle as a source of reasonable doubt. The theory had already gone nowhere during trial, and it still produced no new evidence. By early 2026, according to the source material, the conviction stood. Which brings the story back to where it started. A man involved in the crime is out of prison. The men he helped convict are not. The internet sees that and asks the most human question available. Is that justice? The prosecutor's answer was simple and probably correct in legal terms. Plans hatched in hell do not come with angel witnesses. If you want to prove what happened inside a conspiracy, sometimes the witness you need is another conspirator. Without Allen, the state still had a strong case. With Allen, it had a complete one. The emotional answer is harder. Jose Onfroy was 20 years old. He withdrew his own money from his own bank, went to look at motorcycles, got recognized, got targeted, got trapped, got robbed, and then got shot after the robbery had already succeeded. One of the men involved said it was a bad idea, took his share anyway, stayed silent for weeks, then eventually became the witness who helped bury the others. That man is alive and on probation. The other 3 are expected to die in prison. That does not resolve neatly because it is not a neat story. It is a story about hierarchy inside guilt, about what the system rewards, about the difference between pulling the trigger, steering the car, joining the robbery, and later telling the truth about all of it. Robert Allen paid for talking, but he paid less. The others paid for refusing to talk, but also for what they had done before silence ever became a strategy. And that is the part people keep circling back to. Not confusion over the facts, not uncertainty about who was there. The facts are ugly enough. The real tension is that this case ended the way many serious conspiracy cases end. The least useful kind of justice would have been the most emotionally satisfying. Treat all 4 the same and close the file. Instead, the state made a bargain. It traded a lighter sentence for the testimony that helped secure life sentences against the men prosecutors believed were most responsible. So when people say Robert Allen got away with it, what they are really reacting to is not a mystery in the case. It is the structure of the outcome. A man can be guilty. A man can be remorseful. A man can be necessary. A man can be all of those things at once. And in this case, that man was Robert Allen. And that is where this story finally lands. Not in the courtroom, not in the interrogation room, not even in the parking lot outside Riva Motorsports. It lands in that uncomfortable space between legal justice and moral closure, because the law did what it was built to do. The shooter will die in prison. The driver will die in prison. The other man who helped carry it out will die in prison. The state got its convictions. The evidence held. The appeals failed. On paper, the system worked. But paper is not where people feel a case like this. People feel the part that does not sit right. A 20-year-old went out to buy motorcycles with money he had legally withdrawn from his own bank account. 4 men saw an opportunity, confirmed who he was, waited, trapped him, robbed him, and then turned theft into murder. One of those men helped tell the truth later, and because of that, he got to walk back into the world while the others disappeared into cells for life. That is the trade at the center of this whole saga. Robert Allen spoke, and it saved him from dying in prison. The others stayed silent, and now their names are attached to life sentences, failed appeals, and a case that keeps coming back every time the internet rediscovers what happened that day. And maybe that is why this story still hits as hard as it does. Not because the facts are unclear. The facts are brutally clear. It stays alive because it forces the same question every time it resurfaces. What does justice look like when the truth only comes from someone who was guilty too? There is no clean answer to that. There never was. There is only what happened. A robbery planned in motion. 8 minutes and 35 seconds of waiting. A bag already taken. Shots fired anyway. A family left with a permanent absence. 3 men who will never come home. And 1 man who will spend the rest of his life living under the shadow of what he chose to be part of and what he chose to say after. That is not a happy ending. It is not a satisfying ending. It is just the ending this case produced. And years later, it still feels heavy because some stories do not fade. They just wait for people to look at them again. If you want more breakdowns like this, stories where the headlines are only the surface and the real weight is underneath, follow BarzBuzz, because some cases are not just news, they are warnings. If this saga had you shook, wait till you see what's next. You already know what it is. BarzBuzz got the real, raw, and unfiltered breakdowns. So don't forget to like, subscribe, drop a comment, and share this with someone who needs to catch up.